at 5, the Aftons. Yes, this is a top 5, okay? Relax. In the best ending to FNAF Security Breach, there are quite a few confusing moments. The most confusing one for me, at the very least, is the idea that Gregory would go get ice cream with Vanessa when she's done trying to kill him. Like, why would you do that? Like, this is kind of like a come into my van kind of situation, you know? Some seem to think that it's because they're related or representing the dead Afton kids. And thanks to MatPat, there is actually a little more evidence to this now. Well, not now, like a while ago, but you know what I mean. The ice cream that Vanessa gets while on the hill is very reminiscent of the ice cream cone that lured Elizabeth into Baby's arms. However you want to say it, arms, arm grabbing, scooping range, whatever. The cone, the soft serve on top, kind of looks like the cone with the soft serve on top that Baby presented to Elizabeth in order to lure her closer and then, you know. Like, is that evidence or just a coincidence? Originally, you don't really know, okay? But Vanessa isn't the only one with a potentially symbolic dessert option in her murderous little hands. Thanks to MatPat pointing this out, Gregory also has a popsicle. A Freddy popsicle to be exact. They're kind of like the ones that you could get in the game earlier, like the SpongeBob ones that never look right? But it's Freddy Fazbear. And the lighting makes this one, that isn't Glamrock Freddy, surprisingly enough, look very yellow in color, as if it was referencing to a certain yellow bear that could have had something to do with Crying Child's death. If it was meant to be Crying Child, this could be a good way of indicating that not only is this good, but it also gets better. Alright, Crying Child has taken a bite out of the head of the popsicle, which first of all is weird, because why are you biting a popsicle? Especially in a point that like the ear can like fall off because it's not attached by enough anymore. But also it could be a reference to how he ended up meeting his unfortunate fate after William supercharged the jaw, just saying, but like, I don't know, okay? I don't know if like the generally accepted canon, like if these are the Afton kids, but like hell, it would make a lot of sense in my mind. And at 4, we are Vanny. This one was a video a long time ago, before Security Breach actually came out, and it was a theory about how our player character in FNAF VR was in fact Vanny or Vanessa. And you know what? It ended up being confirmed as true in Security Breach, although I'm pretty sure that that wasn't an original thought when we made that video. I'm pretty sure I based it off of Reddit posts and stuff. But with the interviews or therapy sessions present within the game, however, we do get more information and clues to the story of the previous 3 FNAF games as well. Well, okay, like 2 main series games and then 1 spin-off. Yep. That's correct. These therapy sessions actually confirmed the suspicions that Vanessa was indeed Ness from FNAF AR as well. So with this revelation, we know that in FNAF VR we play as Vanessa, who was probably put there by someone higher up at Fazbear Entertainment because they knew what Afton was planning or something, or maybe it was Afton using his hacking skills through being in the game, something like that. I don't know. But then we got possessed with our mind locked inside Princess Quest. And then we get sent to the special delivery unit to install our virus on various animatronics, probably to try to help William gain a body of his own, but that didn't work. So we were moved to the head security guard for the Pizzaplex, where we could dig up Afton's old body so that we'd be able to put him in that, since it had already contained him before. And thanks to the simple mention of Lewis and her looking up odd things at work with her secret encrypted conversations, we now know the full story of Vanessa since FNAF VR, or since FNAF AR. No, it would be VR AR Security Breach. Halfway through in at number 3, limb transplant. William Afton is a tricky fiend. He somehow, no matter what, seems to get away with whatever scheme he's cracked up just because he's lucky, okay? Or maybe he's just that kind of person. Maybe he has like the Infinity Gauntlet, maybe he's just charming, I don't know. But if he does have the Infinity Gauntlet, it would explain a lot, since every game after the introduction of Springtrap, at least where William appears, he has a new design. And it's not a design that can be easily explained away by the suit deteriorating or being torn up. No. Like Springtrap to Scraptrap, his head's like doubled in size. And then Scraptrap to Burntrap, it went back to the original design. It was more Springtrap but more deteriorated and burnt. Like the whole time, however, it remained William Afton, as proven in Ultimate Custom Night and in like the Freddy files. It calls him William Afton as well. So like, what's the deal here, Scotty boy? What's going on? How did this happen? My best explanation was artistic license, okay? Scott just ran with the idea that he thought he would make Springtrap scarier, since a lot of people were upset with the original jump scare from FNAF 3, and he didn't want that repeating itself, but in the process, he confused the hell out of us, and honestly, I don't like Scraptrap, it's weird. So in Security Breach, he went back to something closer to the original design, and then swapped out missing limbs from the Scraptrap animatronic for Glamrock Bonnie parts. Plus, the whole artistic license thing explains away the design discrepancies on Scraptrap. But ultimately, And at number 2, Vengeful Child. And while yes, we made a whole video about this literally yesterday, I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that the whole crying child is the vengeful spirit thing solves a lot more problems than it causes. Because the only thing you really have to do to have this theory be the case is believe that crying child would blame his father for his death. And considering how he most likely saw Elizabeth get scooped, it's probably the case. At that point, he would note that the robots that William, his father, made are meant to kill, and therefore wouldn't blame Michael for figuring that an animatronic wouldn't be able to kill him. Additionally, it explains the nightmares in Ultimate Custom Night, fact that Cassidy was released in FNAF 3, and the he pronouns used for the one you should not have killed, and doesn't really raise any questions other than would he blame William. The only time we've seen someone possess something while they've still been alive and then also possessed multiple things was Henry after the loss of his daughter, which, you know what, in my mind would cause a lot more agony than a child being chased by nightmare versions of robots while you're in a coma in the hospital, okay? Losing a child is worse than a nightmare. Also, if you're in the hospital, the only thing that you're going to possess is like the only thing around, which is your dad, okay? It's the simplest explanation. It literally explains everything. I don't know why people are so apprehensive about this theory. Like, yeah, you can believe that William didn't kill Crying Child, but what's important here isn't what you believe, it's what Crying Child himself would believe. After all, since the vengeful spirit is talking through the animatronics in Ultimate Custom Night, as we learned from the mediocre melody lines, because the animatronic lines are basically just what the one you should not have killed is saying, but in the animatronic voice. So, by that logic, the one you should not have killed basically named themselves. Not basically, they did name themselves. So all that matters is if Crying Child would blame dear old dad, and considering how he probably saw Elizabeth get scooped, I'm much more comfortable thinking that, instead of thinking that Cassidy wasn't released in the Happiest Day minigame despite what is clearly is the intended end for those spirits, and then somehow switching from Golden Freddy to William or even possessing both, and then having two souls inside of Golden Freddy. Like, it's one logical assumption compared to multiple assumptions. The logbook people also cite as evidence for Cassidy actually basically proves the whole Cassidy thing wrong, since Cassidy shows up on a page talking about your happiest day, being given cake by the puppet, so I'm pretty sure that is Scott solidifying the whole she was released in the Happiest Day minigame thing, since this book would have taken place before FNAF 3. Like hell, maybe it even took place during FNAF 3 just before she's released, hence why the two spirits could be talking. And finally, and at number 1, false conviction. This is actually the theory that inspired this list, and it comes from one of you. On our full timeline video, which in my opinion is still underappreciated, incredibly underappreciated really, Shauna S commented, quick little theory. You know how in the first game it says the killer was convicted for murders of the missing children? If that is the case, I think that Henry was falsely convicted, but since they couldn't find the bodies, he got 25 to 30 years and got out of prison when Fazbear Frights happened. It explains to me why he wasn't involved in the first few games. I will say I've heard a lot of different information concerning the missing children's incident, so my theory may be wrong, just wanted to put that out there. And then they also gave me permission to use this in the video. And honestly, Henry being falsely imprisoned for the missing children's incident explains a lot. Considering how there were no bodies, there wouldn't really be much forensic evidence, so the case against anyone in this case would rely on circumstantial evidence to get a conviction. But when it's the death of multiple kids, they're definitely going to want to explore every avenue and not let this guy off if there is even the slightest chance. So the case would have been dragged on for a while, until 1993 potentially, when the Fazbear Frights location closed with William still inside. 30 years is definitely a lot of time for new evidence to come to light, and maybe Henry even could have gotten out earlier than the 30 years if he was exonerated by new evidence. But he didn't act until William was free because he thought that the situation was dealt with. Well, the whole he was convicted thing could be explained away by Scott not thinking that there would be another game, let alone 8 more. He probably could have wanted the killer story to end with the first game just in case. But now, since we know that William wasn't convicted, this could be a really great explanation that explains why nothing happened with Henry until FNAF 3. So, incredible job, Shauna. Amazing work. I don't know if that means much coming from me, but good job. And at 10, Henry's Mustard Man. The Mustard Man is one of the most confusing points of FNAF 6. The seemingly new character felt like William Afton, driving a purple car and living in a house with kids that we had established to be William's, but he wasn't purple. This led some to the conclusion that perhaps this was Henry, William's business partner and father to Charlotte, the one who goes on to possess the puppet. This caused us to think hard and look at different aspects of the series in a whole new way. If this was Henry, that would mean that the FNAF 4 house was Henry's, and that the security cameras in sister location's security room were of Henry's house, meaning either he put them there or William was spying on them. It would also mean that the FNAF 4 girls' room was Charlotte's and not Elizabeth's. It threw a wrench into everything we thought we knew about the series, and some still believe this theory to this day, and honestly, I don't know what to believe. I don't know if it's right or wrong. And at 9, Bite of 87. The Bite of 87 is like the center point of all FNAF confusion. This event was introduced in the first game and has never been explained fully. The absolute that this caused just made everything more difficult to put into place. Who caused the bite? Who got bit? Was it Mangle? Was it Fredbear? Did we see the bite in FNAF 4? Was it Jeremy who got bit? If so, why did he stick around with the company? Was Chica's Ultimate Custom Night line actually revealing the bite? We don't know the answers, but generally the consensus is that Mangle bit Jeremy prior to FNAF 2, and that's why we were hired in the game. But then FNAF 4 came along and a load of people assumed that Crying Child being chomped was the Bite of 87. However, as evidenced by the Fredbear and Friends cartoon on the TV and the secret password of 1983 in sister location, we know that Crying Child was bit in 1983 and not 1987, resulting in 2 separate bite instances. Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers, but hey, that's FNAF for you. And at 8, Mike Trap. This has got to be the most frustrating debate in all of FNAF lore. At the end of Sister Location, in the secret ending, Mike has a little speech about how he's supposed to be dead but he isn't, and that he's going to go find his father, who just so happens to be William Afton. But this debate comes at the end of the scene. Since Mike says, "I'm going to come find you," and then Springtrap pops out, because, you know, he's in the ruins of Fazbear Frights. This made people believe that this was actually Springtrap popping out, and that Springtrap was Mike. However, it was only to show that, you know, dear old dad hasn't moved on to the blood-soaked pastures, and that you lighting the on fire didn't actually do anything, because he was being kept alive by the soul of one of his victims. Yeah, the whole Mike Trap Club was disproven by Scott himself when he said in a post on Steam to look at Pat's explanation for the whole debate. But yeah, some people still swear that they're 2 different individuals, which is absolutely absurd but definitely changed everything. And at 7, Survivor. William Afton always comes back, but honestly, that wasn't always the case. After FNAF 3, we thought that he was dead, at least until someone pulled the good old-fashioned screen brightening and saw William on the back of the final newspaper article in FNAF 3 where it talks about the Fazbear Frights fire. That's when we knew that William would be back again whenever the series continued. This wasn't the only time that we would theorize that Afton survived either, since in FNAF 6 we also got theories about William making it out of the final fire, since he was in front of the flames in the final scene, whereas other animatronics were behind or inside the fire. And this also turned out to be true, since in the Man in Room 1280 we learned that he made it out of the fire and was in the hospital, being kept alive by the soul of one of his victims, like supernatural life support. And in FNAF VR he was back as Sentient Code, which now makes us all believe that next time William bites the dust, he'll be back. I always come back. And at 6, Clara Afton. We know little about Mrs. Afton. We don't even know if there was a Mrs. Afton. We know that William probably had some form of woman in his life, assuming his kids are biological and not adopted, and we also know that William had some other female that he was pushing away, who was represented by Bellora's song. But we also have no idea who this original woman was, or if she's still alive. Maybe she died, maybe she left William. There have been plenty of rumors and ideas of how this situation is going on by different FNAF parody songs and animations, some of which involve car accidents or Mrs. Afton walking in on whatever William was doing, but none of these have ever been confirmed. So like, people are still treating them as fact even though they're literally just fan animations. There is no official name yet for Mrs. Afton. Some people though call her Clara because of The Immortal and the Restless, the soap opera from Sister Location, since there is a vampire in purple that people compared to William, which for some reason even meant that because, you know, William's name isn't Vlad, but Clara, oh yeah, that must be the mother's name. Yeah, that's not true. Clara Afton doesn't exist, at least yet. She has no canon name, alright? So stop calling her Clara Afton. I still see comments like this, and I feel like at this point it's only to troll me. Are you doing it to troll me? Are you doing it to make me mad? Because it's working. FNAF has already driven me insane. You don't need to do it more, okay? I'm already crazy. Halfway through into number 5, William Afton. Before Sister Location, we didn't have the name of William Afton. We didn't have a name for the most infamous serial killer in video games. Rather, we had a nickname, the Purple Guy. This name became synonymous with FNAF and this mysterious killer. It became so associated, in fact, that anytime someone wore purple in a video, we all flipped out. Until one fateful day where the great MatPat came to us suffering through the Silver Eyes novel to bring us a theory that shaped FNAF history. The name of the Purple Guy was not the phone guy, but rather William Afton. Since this name came from the books, a lot of people were quick to dismiss it, saying that they're not canon to the games, so we can't think that it's true. But then, lo and behold, we get one simple line in the Sister Location intro that confirmed this suspicion. Quote, "Those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton." Boom! With that one line, MatPat had another theory confirmed, and everyone who said the books weren't canon ate their words. And I love that. In it for 2 souls. The idea that Golden Freddy has 2 souls inside him only started thanks to the Bunny Call epilogue, where the spirit who was possessing William Afton went on to possess the Stitch Wraith along with the original spirit. That, for one reason or another, caused a load of people to start thinking that Golden Freddy had 2 souls inside him. However, like MatPat says, it's just a theory. Lore-wise, as far as we know, Freddy only has 1 soul inside him. And the whole 2 eyes thing with the golden Freddy head and the FNAF 3 bad ending, it doesn't make sense, okay? If you want to go and have a better explanation as to why it doesn't make sense, check out my video on the topic. This presents an issue though, because if we look at a series through this lens, it can cause us to move in directions that we were never supposed to. Since if Golden Freddy having 2 souls is not the case, then us assuming that it is and then continuing on with that in mind is just going to cause even more problems. We have to look at things from multiple angles if we're going to do things properly. Having a single viewpoint can end up being our downfall. So, whenever I suggest that Golden Freddy has 1 soul, or I go off that idea, it's because it's still actually possible. And you know what? It's more likely. That's right, I said it. Golden Freddy is most likely only possessed by 1 soul. You know what? You want to come at me? Come on, MatPat. Finally notice me, senpai. Come on. Golden Freddy has 1 soul. Prove me wrong with hardcore facts, not theories. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Michael is Crying Child. The Crying Child has been a mystery since FNAF 4. He doesn't have a name, despite what people may be calling him, and currently they're working on trying to uncover his name, but as of yet, he isn't named Chris, he isn't named Doug, he isn't named Larry. But not only is his name a mystery, the character himself is also mysterious. He dies at the end of FNAF 4, but he's told that he will get put back together, presumably by William, but we don't know if he was actually put back together. However, when the revelation came that Mike knew what the Nightmare animatronics looked like, we absolutely flipped, thinking that he had to be Crying Child, and that he had to have been put back together. There was absolutely no way that he could be anyone else. That somehow William had kept Crying Child alive after he supposedly died in FNAF 4. This is something we all solidly believed. Until one fateful day when Fazbear Frights Book 3 Step Closer and its title story were released. Penultimately, in at number 2, Michael is Foxy Bro. Not only did everything change when we thought Crying Child was Michael Afton, but now we think that Michael is actually Crying Child's older brother, thanks to one simple line from Step Closer. The older brother in this story, who has an affiliation to Foxy, much like the older brother from FNAF 4, chews a lot of gum. This is pointed out multiple times. And Michael wrote in the survival logbook that if he could break one habit, it would be chewing gum excessively. However, this makes even less sense than him being a revived Crying Child, since how would this entirely separate character know about the Nightmare animatronics that were created inside Crying Child's head right before he dies? He couldn't have told him because, he was dead, and it's not like Michael would also dream about these animatronics that had stomach mouths, a feature that we presume was added because Crying Child saw Elizabeth get scooped. Why would that make any sense? It wouldn't, and that's the point. It's all one big kerfuffle that drives me absolutely insane. That's why I believe that Michael is a rebuilt Crying Child as his older brother, because it makes more sense, and I can't believe I have to say that. It makes more sense. Finally, in at number 1, Dream Theory. The most controversial FNAF fan theory of all time. The topic of dream theory came around when Scott started giving Matt, Pat, and other FNAF theorists hints during a live stream shortly after the release of FNAF 4. These hints included, in the FNAF 4 minigame, why would Toy Chica be missing her beak? What is seen in the shadows is often misunderstood in the mind of a child. And 4 games, 1 story. These hints led to the potential conclusion of the entire game series being a dream created by Crying Child as he lay dying on his hospital bed. That the real things we see in FNAF 4's 8-bit minigames resulted in the creation of some aspects we see in various games, like Toy Chica losing her beak when she goes on the attack in FNAF 2. And it also explained a whole load of different things like the hallucinations and everything that seemingly defied logic. Yet everyone hated the theory, so we stopped talking about it. But it certainly did change the way we looked at the FNAF series as a whole. So had to be included. And it's at hints. Once we started looking for lore hints and clues in more than just the games, we knew that we were going to be in for some extreme buffoonery with this series. I mean, like, looking in the game files is one thing, okay? People do that all the time, especially for popular games. But once we had to start looking in the source code for Scott's different websites, and then everything that followed that, we knew that there was nowhere safe from his tricks. We learned multiple things thanks to the fast facts found in FNAF AR's files. We know that after Sister Location, Baby gets into a fight with the rest of Ennard and gets kicked off the island because of the source code. We got so many 8s and 7s before the release of FNAF 4 that we found a real-life pizza place on Google Maps, and we were looking so deep we ended up finding the original names to files to find the name of Vanny before it was even released. So yeah, needless to say, it's certainly been a wild ride since we saw those 8s and 7s in the source code. And then it only got more intense. Can't wait to see where this series goes with the hints next. Oh, probably just scrolling them on the inside of my eyelids. In 9, hiding spot. How the absolute living hell did anyone end up getting away with this? Like, the smell of rotting bodies inside of animatronics would ruin the atmosphere. The heat of the animatronics moving as well, that would just speed up the decomposition, and the animatronics are in front of people every single day. And they even started complaining that the animatronics were leaking blood and mucus and were, quote, smelling like death. If this was real, and William getting away with this wasn't important for the plot of life, he would have been cut instantly. Like, oh, we never found the bodies of these kids. How about we look in these leaking animatronics? Because, you know, they're leaking blood and mucus and smelling like death. Oh, wow, look at that. There's bodies here. We found those missing kids. Afton, you're under arrest. Boom. Like, instantly. I don't get how this wasn't an open and shut case. Like, straight up. He was so goddamn stupid. Like, he shouldn't have made it past the first game. His plan is a whole dumpster fire of bad ideas. But the entirety of the series would be different had he not hid the bodies in the animatronics. So, well played, I guess, William. And at 8, betrayal. Top 10 worst anime betrayals, but it's FNAF. In Sister Location, we thought we finally had a nice animatronic. The first nice one. Like basically a prototype of Glamrock Freddy. Baby was giving us tips on how to survive, she helped us get through Belora's gallery, she really seemed like she wanted us to live. But then, what do we get for trusting her? Scooped and stuffed just like a Thanksgiving turkey. Sounds like my last relationship. That sounded weird. That's not what I meant. I didn't mean that. I meant, like, that's what we get for trusting her. This was probably one of the most brutal things to happen to a character in the entirety of the series. And it's all because we trusted Baby. Okay, she made us feel safe, gave us confidence, prevented us from getting killed, only to use our body as a skin suit and then fill us full of Ennard's animatronic parts, and then also just leave Ennard, not even a game later. Okay? This is why I don't trust Glamrock Freddy. Baby is legit one of the reasons that I have trust issues now, and that's saying something. Like, holy damn. I could have sworn Glamrock Freddy was going to do the exact same thing. Like, lead us down to Afton, then pull a psych, I've been working for this dickbag of a Mother Hubbard this whole time. Time to die. Ha ha! But he didn't. However, thanks to Baby, I still think that he's going to do the long con and that he's going to betray us in the next game. And without that, then we wouldn't have thought that McMichael is a robot and then the whole there's 2 purple guys now. Okay, it was an important moment, okay? And it's 7, true ending. The true ending of Security Breach is seemingly the scariest part of the game. This one is unlocked by finding the secret elevator in the section in Roxy's Raceway. It's down the stairs from where you find the test driver head. This requires your Freddy to have the Monty Claus and the Chica voice box, I guess. However, it is also possible that you can only get through it with the voice box if you like call Freddy to you. He can like appear on the other side of the gate and then smash through it because he's required to. But yeah, you have to do this after you stay to complete the game. You have to deal with a boss battle with one go, okay, without saving. So that's going to be a pretty rough time since save states are disabled after you could have escaped. After making your way into Burntrap's area, Freddy will be taken over by Burntrap, and it's up to Gregory to defeat him using one of the 3 monitors and then pressing buttons to burn him. Players will also need to avoid the animatronic enemies that come for Gregory and use the doors to temporarily lock them out. When Springtrap is finally burnt for the final time, the blob, which was the whole tentacle monster thing, will attack him, making sure that he doesn't get free. At least, we hope that that's the case. Freddy and Gregory will be shown escaping and then sitting on a hill together, which is the first time a character has run away with an animatronic, and where an animatronic has not been a bad guy who ultimately betrays us in the end. So, yeah, that's significant, okay? Don't question me. And at 6, the one you should not have killed. The introduction of the one you should not have killed is probably the most confusing character ever. While we have had more confusing moments, the argument over who the one you should not have killed, aka the vengeful spirit isn't over. But no matter if it's Cassidy or Crying Child, the vengeful spirit was introduced as an explanation as to why Afton always comes back. A spirit that was possessing him and keeping him alive, which I called. I called that Afton was still living in the Springtrap suit, but all of you didn't believe me. And here we are. He was alive in the suit. And even after that, for some reason, you don't believe that I'm right about Crying Child being the one you should not have killed instead of Cassidy. Despite my over, like, 350 different videos on FNAF. Okay, I feel like I know enough about this series, especially with the calls that I've made in the past. Okay, I was one day off on the Security Breach release date, one day, and you still don't think I know enough about this series. Come on, people, come on, just accept me as your overlord, and this would all be so much easier. Halfway through into number 5, Dream Theory. The actual concept of dream theory is nothing new to any series, really. The idea that everything we've seen could just be a dream is possible with any form of media. But when it comes to FNAF, this idea made a lot of people upset, and I guess that's understandable. With everything being a dream, it in essence makes the lore worthless. So the hours and hours people spent trying to work it out being pointless if it was true. However, if this was the intention, we never knew, since in FNAF 4's ending we see a locked box with the now infamous line of perhaps some things are best left forgotten for now. And that for now has been around 6 years. Currently, according to Scott, from what I've seen, nobody has actually solved FNAF 4 yet, but then again, I don't think Scott knows who we are, so maybe I have and he just doesn't know it. But with the game surrounding a kid in a coma who's experiencing nightmares after getting chomped on by a seriously overpowered animatronic jaw, I think us getting the idea that this could be indicating that everything is a dream is a little on par for what the actual course was at that point. We were so invested at this point that we actually started scanning the source code, and again, found a real-world pizzeria thanks to the multiple 8s and 7s, and I still don't know if that was accidental or not. I don't think anyone does. I don't know if Scott actually knew about that or not. Maybe he was the one who put that on Google Maps. And at 4, soft reboot. The soft reboot the series is undergoing at the moment, and more so at the time that Help Wanted was released, was something that we had never seen before, well, at least in the FNAF series, and seemingly started the trend of characters from games becoming sentient and trying to escape the confines of games and come into the real world. That, you know, we see play out through the FNAF games after Afton becomes sentient code. But even then, the next game seems to throw that idea away while we're keeping what happened there, or at least in the mobile port canon with Princess Quest. It's a real issue, okay? The real issue comes from the next soft reboot they attempted to do in Security Breach again, with Afton now having a physical form. Again, his death being a mystery and the game setting up the next owner for wherever they want to go. And while I understand that, I wish you could have just like given it one path, you know, or like at least like just killed William off for us permanently. I'm still upset about that. Getting close to the end into number 3, Springtrap. Being the genius behind some of the most advanced robotic technology in his universe, we expect a lot from William Afton. He's the suit technician, but he's also the main killer. So, he should really know what he's doing, right? Well, apparently not, since after discovering that the original 5 animatronics were possessed, he disassembles them to learn their secrets. This inadvertently releases the spirits of the original 5 victims, causing William to panic, which is fairly reasonable since firstly they're freaking ghost kids, and ghost kids are the scariest kind of ghost, and also because they're ghost kids that he killed. So this absolute animatronic genius, the mastermind behind everything, the technician that handles the suit maintenance and has explained to every employee the proper procedure for the spring lock suits, including the spring bodysuit that he uses to kill, ends up climbing inside the suit in a panic in an attempt to make himself feel more powerful and maybe scare the ghost kids off. However, since he's so smart, he didn't notice the moisture in the room, the leaking ceiling, the puddles on the floor, causing the spring locks that were active at this moment since it was in suit mode to fail, which would have killed him had he not been possessed by the vengeful spirit. But I mean, without Springtrap, we don't have FNAF 3, and we don't have like literally any other game after that, so kind of important. Penultimately, in at number 2, FNAF 4. Not only is the spring locking important, and on top of embarrassing, but the next game, FNAF 4, is one of the most pivotal moments in the series. After what Scott intended to be the original end to the series after 3 games, he came out with a 4th after the community was disappointed with the Springtrap jump scare. So lo and behold, we get the Nightmare animatronics, and the story of Crying Child, who still doesn't have an official name, since the N in Evan is a stretch and the whole Gregory thing is still up in the air. However, this kid really changed the way we looked at the series, from thinking that William was a grieving father to, after looking closely, that he instead designed these animatronics to kill, and the mysteries of this game. What's inside the box? Who's the one who says I will put you back together? And really, what does it mean? It's been like 6 years after the game's release, and we've still been unable to definitively answer those questions. And that's why the series has lived on for so long, okay? The amount of mystery and intrigue is just too much for us as humans to ignore. As humans, we want answers. It explains a lot about society. But let me tell you, those who don't worry about FNAF have it made. I guess ignorance is bliss. They don't have to do this. And finally, into number 1, live stream. After MatPat's big FNAF 4 theory relating to dream theory and how the entire series might be a dream, something later disproven by Scott, so thank God for that, there was still a series of cryptic messages that made us think a whole load of crazy for a while. And you know what? Maybe we were right at the time, but as the series grows, so does the story. It's like a living organism adapting to changes in its environment. Why would Toy Chica be missing her beak? And 4 games, 1 story could have made sense back then, but now we're not entirely sure if they have an impact anymore, since it's definitely more than 4 games. At the time, we thought that this meant that Crying Child was Michael Afton, something that honestly kind of made sense, in the weird FNAF way of making sense. But now, we've decided that it's not the case, and honestly, I think that this is the way the series will stay. Not about the Mike thing per se, but specifically that we will never know what's really going on, and that the story will instead be what we as fans make it instead of what Scott might have originally intended. Sure, he can help gesture us in a better direction that would make more sense with what he wanted and what he has planned, but I don't think that we'll ever know what Scott originally thought the story of the series would be. Hence why when Daco asked him which FNAF 3 ending was canon, Scott said he wouldn't answer.
Number 10, Balloon Boy. FNAF has taken some flack for inconsistencies in the game, and while some can be attributed to story being the reason for variations in character depiction, or simply a trick of the light when it comes to some of the details, not all can be reasonably explained, or can have a case made in terms of them being intentional. The inconsistency of the color of Balloon Boy's buttons is one mistake that many fans think was not intentional, but simply something overlooked and not finalized. Balloon Boy's buttons originally appear white when he first appears in FNAF number 2, but later appear to change to black, even when you shine the flashlight on him. This has led people to theorize that there are actually 2 Balloon Boys simply because of this small overlooked inconsistency in his design. What do you think? Was this a mistake or was it intentional? Number 9. Where's Chica's cupcake? While Chica has become known for her cupcake, which she's often pictured as taking around everywhere with her in the games, this has left many fans of the franchise wondering where it was in the first game. Now in that game, Chica is still wearing her Let's Eat bib, but she doesn't really have any cupcake snack to come along with her. She's not holding that cupcake on a plate. Because I think FNAF blew up in a way that Scott was really not expecting. There have been many inconsistencies with characters' props like this in the game. And because there is so much story and lore surrounding the events of the game, a lot of people are looking for more of an explanation than just, well, it hadn't been designed yet, or it was simply forgotten. Number 8, Five Nights at Freddy's High School. Okay, so sadly I was not able to track down the official cartoon for this thing to watch, but apparently there is an animated series based off of the animatronic characters from FNAF. What? If this does exist and it isn't a joke, it looks ridiculous because the show is actually supposed to imagine what the lives of the animatronics would be like if they were human and in high school. Yeah, because that's something we needed apparently. The description reads, Golden has no control over his life, Fox has made mistakes, Chica has no friends, Bonnie is constantly bullied, and Freddy has a secret. Say what? Someone trying to turn the world of FNAF into a high school drama series? But why? Why does everything have to become a high school drama now? And although I wasn't able to find this animated series, in the process of trying to track it down, I actually stumbled upon several different animations from various studios that explored the world of teenage drama with the animatronics being in high school. Like, what? This whole idea seems to be a huge mistake. I hope this never becomes some sort of official like Cartoon Network show because I don't think I'm ready for that. I'm cool with like a scary cartoon with FNAF, but not like high school drama. So much drama. Number 7, Night 8. A weird glitch in the game allows you to play through an 8th night in FNAF 2, and possibly also in the original FNAF game as well. Apparently, when you scroll through the starting menu following completion of the game can glitch, which will allow you to play Night 8 out of the 5 nights. I know, I was surprised too when I first discovered there was actually more than just 5 nights in this game. The name is a bit of a misnomer there. Yes, even the first and original FNAF game, you play 5 nights, and then you can continue onto the hard mode, Night 6, and then you get to play a custom night where you can actually change the level of difficulty for the AIs of the animatronics that you will face. Now, glitching at the game in FNAF 2 reveals Night 8, though whether or not this was a mistake or an intentional glitch remains a mystery. Some people think that it was actually something that was being worked on but wasn't finished yet, though most people just believe this is a straight up glitch, especially because Night 8 doesn't seem to have anything super standout about it. Number 6, fan art. After promotional artwork for FNAF 7 was released on social media, it was almost immediately taken back down. Fortunately, fans still got to see the artwork released as it had already made its way to Reddit, where it was preserved. Why had it been taken down? Well, apparently Scott had removed the artwork because he had discovered that the person on his team who had created it hadn't just used his own artwork and models for the game, but had accidentally used fan art mixed in with Scott's own work. Because of this, he immediately took it down, not wanting to use someone else's work and lay claim to it, and was understandably upset that this had happened. So, how did this happen? Well, apparently it was because the fan-made models that his team had found were actually so close to the original skins of the characters from the game that they thought they were actually Scott's own designs. Following this mistake, Scott actually commended those who had made the fan art for doing such amazing work, made it mistaken for his own. He even admitted that some of the fan-made models that he'd seen were even better than his own models. Although we've seen some other moments that showcase this, Scott's reaction continued to highlight just how much he cares and respects the fan base of FNAF and its community. So although this was a mistake, it was still kind of like a really nice mistake. Definitely made people, I think, realize how much Scott cares about his fan base. Number 5, continuity. For many, a lot of the story that is explored and hinted at in the games has become somewhat hard to follow or understand, more filled with theories than having something concrete that we can hold on to. While many have praised the games for the story that begins to unravel the more and more you play, involving murder and family drama, there have also been some continuity errors within the lore. The only thing that can be said about retcons being introduced in regards to the storytelling is at least Scott recognizes that not everything that he will make is perfect, but he has reassured the community that he does spend time putting effort and thought into this story, while also admitting that he is bound to make mistakes on his journey. I mean, aren't we all? Number 4, FNAF film script. That's right, Five Nights at Freddy's has become so popular, there is a movie in the works. I mean, we all knew it was gonna happen eventually, right? This movie was originally supposed to be produced by Warner Brothers, but then moved over to Blumhouse Entertainment when it came to the studio that was going to be taking care of it. Known for their hand in the creation of such horror films as Insidious, Paranormal Activity, The Purge, Split, and Get Out. This film has been in talks since 2015, and in 2018 a script was finally provided, one that Scott had actually worked on that both Jason Blum and the director for the film, Chris Columbus, had both apparently liked. I mean, obviously they liked it so much they approved it. Unfortunately, Scott scrapped the script following its approval. Taking to the forums, he updated the fans on the status of the film, sharing that he had liked the script, but that he actually got a better idea for it, and so he decided to scrap the original script. So instead of pre-production getting underway in 2018, it's likely that we'll have to wait at least another 2 to 3 years for this film, if we even end up getting one. As far as I know, we have yet to hear about anything but a new script being approved, so da-da-da. Number 3, jump scares and nightmares. While designing and developing the game Five Nights at Freddy's, the creator Scott Cawthon found himself startled by one of the animatronics in the game when he lowered his camera and its face popped up. The animatronic wasn't where it was supposed to be due to a game glitch, which startled Scott, and he was actually scared so bad he had nightmares. But this glitch would go on to be one that would pave the way for the feel of the games, as it actually inspired Scott and made him realize that he could actually have something very, very special on his hands when it came to FNAF. Boy, was he right, it took off. Without him experiencing this unexpected glitch and jump scare, who knows if the game would actually be the same. Sometimes mistakes shape us. Number 2, Five Nights at Freddy's World. When Five Nights at Freddy's World was originally released a month early, fans rushed to play it. For Scott, this had been an exciting project that he had been working on, which was different from most of his other games in terms of style. While most FNAF games are more survival horror, this was more of like an open world RPG. However, although loyal fans seemed to enjoy the game once it was released, eager to express their love for it, critics felt just the opposite about it. The reviews from critics were actually so poor that Cawthon felt the only way to deal with the criticism was simply to take it in. He removed the game from Steam and offered a refund to everyone who had played it, whether or not they enjoyed it. Then he set out to fix the game that he felt may have been a little too rushed, even for him. Scott Cawthon does have a thing with rushing his games. He just gets really excited and wants to get them out there pronto. Five Nights at Freddy's World was later re-released. After being patched up and because of his prior mistake in rushing development, Scott offered it for free to all who wanted to play. However, because of mistakes made super early on in the development process, Scott inevitably realized the game was kind of unfixable, and he was actually forced to scrap it and move on. This was a huge thing when it happened. Number 1, Chipper & Sons Lumber Co. Scott's inspiration for FNAF actually came out of one of his biggest failings. Before he became famous for creating Five Nights at Freddy's, indie game designer Scott Cawthon was someone who constantly found himself criticized for rushing through his game development. And it was this kind of criticism that he faced from video game critic Jim Sterling, surrounding a trailer for one of his games, Chipper & Sons Lumber Co. Jim made fun of the game using his review to spin a far-fetched narrative for the game involving a post-apocalyptic world where humans had been replaced by robots. Now, Scott decided to embrace this criticism and actually set out to build a game based on the outlandish narrative Jim thought he was posing, which would later become the first Five Nights at Freddy's. So without that mistake, or without him failing initially, we wouldn't even have FNAF today. And in fact, it was his approach to fast development that helped in building the franchise, as fans have enjoyed how Scott often manages to release new games ahead of their intended release dates. So while for some people that might be a downside, for a lot of the fans, they love that about the games.